Okay, there's a number of different things I want to step you through, but not all of it you'll look at or take in deeply now. My main point is that I want you to know where it is for future reference, okay? The first one is, now this is found, if you go to Mrs. Williams, this one is in organisation. Now, at some point, you will need to decide whether you're doing RPA or RPB, and it's very possible you've already made this decision. In the past, RPA meant you didn't want an ATAR, and RPB meant that you did. Now they've changed that literally at the beginning of this year. You can get an ATAR with RPA. However, we don't know what this is going to look like yet, but it is very possible it's going to be scaled because it is not slightly easier, and in fact it's identical all the way up to the outcome. The only difference in the outcome is that it's 500 words less, but the biggest difference is that final assignment, a review as opposed to an evaluation. So yes, you can get an ATAR with RPA. However, and I think a lot of you are, and of course this is completely your choice, it has nothing to do with me, you make this decision. I think many of you are probably going for your highest ATAR that you can, so I would probably say that you want to do RPB, but that's just an assumption on my part. So yeah, you need to make that decision at some point. That point will pretty much be in the outcome. Okay, so folios for RPA and RPB are identical, exactly the same performance standards. Outcome, same performance standards, but 500 words less, and then it gets very different in the review and evaluation. So what I want to show you is this document. Now, this is put out by SACE and it's put out by the chief moderators, and I think it was made in about 2013, but they haven't tweaked it or changed it in any way. What this is really good for is it explains in much more detail, so you can look at your performance standards, but you might go, what does that mean? God, that's some teacher talk. I don't know what you're talking about. And what it does then is explain, so I've put Folio there first. What is a typical A standard in the Folio? Alright, I'll just go through it very quickly. It includes a comprehensive plan for research activities that are ethical and fit for purpose. A detailed record of students' research includes relevant information, data that is purposefully sorted, so organised and analysed. Key findings are identified as they emerge, but then the exploration of the research question is in depth. So all these words like comprehensive, detailed, relevant, in depth. Again, there is detailed consideration, so thought, of the connections between capabilities and the research question, demonstrating evidence of a comprehensive understanding and development of one or more capabilities. And then it sort of breaks it down there for you. We say an A is no stone unturned. In fact, a high B to an A would be you have exhausted everything. There was nothing left for you to do. Does that make sense? You squeezed the information out of every single part or place that you could. Okay? You can then, of course, have a look at B. I doubt many of you really particularly want to have a look at a C standard, but it does the same thing. But, you know, we have words just like, you know, methodical, yes, ethical and appropriate, detailed again, it's informative, it's collected as opposed to thoroughly sorted, yes, and often analysed as opposed to always analysed. They identified the findings, little bit of exploration and so on. Okay, so I'm just showing you this so that you can come back here if you're feeling a bit lost in the world and you just want to remind yourself of what we're looking for. Or perhaps if you hand your folio in for a check and I give you some feedback, you might be like, what is Mrs. Williams talking about, or why is it not a higher grade, and you can come to this. Alright, so that's just there for your reference. So, what's next? Another place for referencing, for getting some ideas and inspiration, back in Mrs. Williams, we're obviously working out of folder 4 now. I pointed out that there's that booklet there. So if you're a little bit stuck for ideas, or if you want some basic examples, there's that booklet that Mrs. Howard put together. Some people follow it to a T. They really need that strict guidance. Some people might just look at it from time to time. Otherwise, these are the folio resources that I'm providing you. The first thing I want to point out is the examples. Now, there are some Newry High examples. Or what I was actually just this morning having a look at were these SACE examples, and each year they provide us with new SACE examples, which is really cool. One that just blew me out of the water, and I was like, oh my god, this is incredible. And it's an A+, so of course it should. So this person has looked into what are the most effective activities to improve fine motor skills in children aged 3 to 5. Now that's really interesting that that is a what question, and it got an A+. So there you go. But it's really good. So here's their proposal, but I'll skip over that because you've done. What I want to show you though is this. And you can come in here from time to time and see the sort of language that they're using. Now for each source, particularly for written sources, film sources like YouTube and documentaries and so on, and if, for example, you need to use like painting sources, if you were doing, say, an art thing and you wanted to analyze a piece of artwork, okay, this is one way of going about it. What we provide you with is this one. I'll talk a bit further through this, but they've essentially done what I'm about to go through. So for each source, this person, and obviously she's gone to fine motor skills development between 0 and 6 years from skillsbuildersonline.com, blah, 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 blah. So they've put their source there, and we've provided that opportunity here as well for you. She's also used, I'll just put a picture of it there, and I'll show you how to do that in a minute, though you probably know already. Then she has done 3 things. For every source, she has done, as a minimum, 3 things to analyse it. One is her key findings. Now that's not just cutting and pasting, and that's not just summarising, though sometimes it will be just summarising. Obviously you need to give a recount or a summary of what you've learnt from this source. But more importantly, if you can, and of course this won't happen with your first source, but as you go on, if you can explain your connections to the other sources, that's what an A is looking for. So a B would just describe and recount, okay? A C would copy and paste. An A would go, okay, this is what I've learned, here's my new learning. Oh, this connects to blah, 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 or this is in contradiction to blah, 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 so now I will, and so on. At one point, and then so that's the key findings. She then talks about the reliability, and I'll talk about that in a minute. And she also talks about the validity. So as a minimum, she has done key findings, reliability, and validity for each one. And then from time to time, she's also added in a comment about her skills and knowledge developed. And then further down, she's also from time to time commented on, somewhere is her capability as well. She doesn't mention her capability, and she doesn't mention her knowledge and skills developed every single time. Alright, but as a minimum, she does key findings, validity, and reliability. One point I thought was awesome This one here. So she's having a look at worksheets for kids. This worksheet of tracing lines, this is a worksheet, come on. This is a worksheet of tracing lines. In the same website, there are some other worksheets that could develop fine motor skills such as curved lines and zigzags. Some of the lines and shapes look boring to children. So now she's put her own thoughts in here. I thought of using some cartoon characters on a worksheet to make them more appealing. By making the worksheets more interesting and more like a game rather than a worksheet, the children hopefully will find this activity fun, which will add to the effectiveness. Now that's pretty good. That's explaining, okay, this is what I've found and this is what it's helped me with, but here is my own thoughts. And she's taking it further and explaining that, and explaining it's going to be more effective if it's a fun activity. That is a very, very good comment. Yes?
So will the bulk of like the folio that we hand out just be the source analysis?
Pretty much. Well, yes and no.
Yes or no?
Okay. It has to be evidence of all of your research. So there will be some written materials from the web, from books. Down here, she's done, this is obviously just her highlights. I don't know how many YouTube clips she watched. She could watch 20, I don't know. For her 10 pages, she's just put 3 of her best in. And she's treated it exactly the same as a written source analysis, you know. This is the YouTube clip I used and the image has been removed. But this is my key finding. She uses different coloured Play-Doh to make an activity more interesting, validity and reliability, you know. So it will be all of that. She then later, I'm assuming this is a girl by the way, which is pretty sexist, so sorry about that. She then looks at her, she then applies it. Yeah, and so she then, which a number of people are doing, some practical action research, some experiment and trial and error and so on. And she explains that activity and so on. Here is some literature review. So she's actually looked into, this is some books, so you could call that literature review if you use books. Again, key findings, reliability, validity, and so on. And later down here, here's her interview analysis. Now what she hasn't put in here, because this is only her 10 pages, what she would have put in was her development of her interview. What does an effective interview consist of? And she would have broken that down, because that is also a key finding. That's a part of your skill development as opposed to knowledge. Okay, it is everything. Your folio, and this is why it goes on for 9, 10, I don't know how many weeks. What have you got, 12 weeks? Week 3, week 4, week 10, plus 2 weeks of holidays. So 8 school weeks plus 2 holiday weeks. That's a long time to just get content. So it'll be, yeah, your literature and reading and articles, building your foundation of information. It depends on you, but your YouTube clips, if that's what you're looking at. If you're doing surveys, you will actually put in there how to develop a survey. And this is what I've learned about surveys now. So here's my draft of a survey. Here's my second draft of a survey. You will do the surveys, you'll show the findings and analyse them. And within that analysis, you'll talk about how credible it was, and was it effective, and did you learn what you wanted to learn, and did it back up the foundation information? Do you know what I mean? It is everything. And then as I was saying yesterday, it will be some research into how to create your outcome, and what's the most effective way to produce these findings, and so on. Does that make sense? So you're starting to see what this is going to look like? It's a bit overwhelming, and I would totally understand that. This is a feedback analysis, I suppose, from her, what she made. Perhaps she got, I should stop saying she. Perhaps this student got some feedback information about her practical application, and then she broke it down and explained why she made those decisions. With her interview and with this feedback sheet, she also added in effectiveness. So if you're doing a survey or an interview, you might talk about the effectiveness. and then that's just her marking. So you can go in here and read the language that she uses. So, how do you go about this? Let me just double check this one. Yep. Okay. So, as I've said, for each source analysis, and you can tweak these and change these. This is just what we are providing for you. If you want to play around with the colours and waste time with that, okay, I can't stop you. But the first thing you need to do, and I would, first of all, I would be saving source analysis 1 or source analysis number 1, whatever you want to do. And when I go to, so that's in the header and footer, I would then go save as, and let's pretend this is my research folder. So I've got my research. Let's pretend that's my research. I would then, this is my first source analysis, so I would go 1, source analysis chart, and you could do a number of things. You could just leave it as 1, or you could put like the title of what it's on, or the author, whatever you, however you're going to remember it. I don't know, Google searching, maybe that's what I'm studying, whatever. Okay, so you need to go save as all the time, then source analysis 2, source analysis 3. Be organised. Now, who has used the snippet tool before?
Yes.
Many people in here? Good, you can teach me. Huh. So there's my snippet tool. Has anyone, who in here has used it? A few people? Okay. So, I might want to do how to conduct an effective Google search. Now, what do? Do I take the first one straight away and go, yep, I'm going to use that one? I can look at when it's made. Yep. So I need to do some selecting. Okay? I don't just take the first thing and go, yep, that's my first source analysis. It could be. I'm not saying it's not going to be. But it could be. Now, most effective way to do this, right click, and I don't know if you do this or not, open new tab. Open new tab. See how they're loading? Open new tab. Do you do this?
Yeah.
Excellent. Because they're all loading while I'm still having a look at what 10... Alrighty. Now I'm going to do some skim reading, some selecting, and seeing what's most appropriate and what's not. Alright, here we go. So I'm going to skim read it. I'm going to do a little bit of just analysis in the top of my head. Yeah, it's looking pretty good. It's well laid out, isn't it? It's not all over the place. I wonder when it was made. They're going to tell me. Or when it was written, perhaps. 2000, yeah. Yeah, it did say 2010 February, so that's reasonably recent. Yeah. Now I'm going to have a proper skim read of it. I've had a glance. I'm going to have a proper skim read of it. You know, blah, 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 blah. I've done that. Yep, I think it's good. I really like, personally, I really like pressing the print screen button. It's just what I've always done. I find that easiest. If you'd like to use the snippet tool, we go new, and you can tell me if I'm doing a completely wrong thing here. I probably just want sort of that. Oh no, I want the whole title, so yeah, there. And then what do? I go save, don't I? I just find the print screen so much easier. Yep. Oh, cool. So I just press Control V for paste, and you can then manipulate this and format it so that it can be. Now it's a bit harder to change it around because it's in a box, but you could totally delete that box actually if you wanted to. I might do that. Control cut. Let's get rid of this box because that just makes things complicated. So anyway, it's a little bit of messing around, but you get quicker at it, obviously. Yeah, stupid thing. Oh, now. Anyway, you get the point. I then need to straight away do my, my source, and that could be as quick as going to cite this for me. Does everyone know cite this for me? Do I have to go through that?
What referencing would you like?
Full to start with. Yeah.
Like what type would you like Harvard referencing?
Harvard. Yeah, Harvard. Thank you. And then when we get to the outcome, we'll talk more about in-text and so on, but Harvard. Okay? Then obviously you would read it in full, blah, blah, blah. Now if you want a couple of things now. You might, depends on who you are as a reader, you can print this in a hard copy. Okay? Another option is you can print it to a PDF. And I'm getting more used to this. When I was your age and even all the way through uni, I used to need the hard copy. Now going back to uni, I've taught myself to read and highlight off a computer. So that's been a lot better paper-wise and money-wise and so on. So I go here, Adobe PDF, and it's going to come up, ask me to save it somewhere and so on. And I would make that number 1 as well when you save it. So I've got the actual article and then source analysis. And then my next article would be number 2, source analysis. Does that make sense? Yep, so it's asking me to save it somewhere. I think I was doing it in here somewhere. Yep. So I would be calling this number 2, sorry. Alright, so that will now look like, it will open it for me. Alright, like I said, I'm teaching myself to read off the computer, and I highlight and then save it again. If you need a hard copy, print a hard copy. That doesn't necessarily need to go into your actual folio. You could be keeping that in your display folder perhaps. Alright? And so on. So then I'd go through and read it. Another alternative, because it does make it a bit messy, you know, it is a bit spread out and bits and pieces, and all this stuff is in here. The other option, of course, is to just highlight the whole thing. Control copy, Control C I just pressed. And that might be a much better way to do it. You can cut out all your ads and so on. Totally up to you. Alright, that's just gone to 2 pages now as opposed to the 6 pages that the PDF is. Totally depends on what the website is and so on. Alright? So if you do that, make sure you title it, highlight it in there, and go ahead. So, what are you analysing for? How am I going for time? I think I'm ready. When you're stuck for ideas, this is where you come back to. Okay? So, first of all, internet research is a collection of lots of different networks of computers, blah, 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 blah. The internet was the World Wide Web, and meant that you could carry information from an entire library around on your laptop. Yep. Okay. Down here. What's wrong? When you find, hint 1. When you find information you think is correct, check it in 3 more locations. So for example, textbooks, libraries are still great sources of information. Now you don't have to do that for every single key finding, you'll never finish this task. But, you know, the more connections you can make, the better. Alright? And that's what this is all about, is making connections and furthering your knowledge, and you know, you learn something, but then you might learn that same thing but deeper, and what that means in practical sense and so on. Hint 2. Know what you're searching for. Google is a great resource, but it cannot read your mind. To get a specific answer, you need to ask a specific question. So you can use quotation marks to narrow your search, so monsoon, Asia. You can use alternative spellings, although I would say these days it does kind of bring up American and Australian and English, no matter what spelling you use. Line before a key word means that it is to be omitted from the search results. I don't know why you'd put it in there if you wanted to omit it, but oh well. Do not insert spaces between the minus sign and the word that follows it. So that might just be something you want to play with. I'm not sending homework over the weekend other than the tasks. Okay, so if you've done those, you might have a little play around with this and see what it brings up. Wikipedia is not a reliable source of information. Anyone can author Wikipedia and they don't necessarily have to know much about the topic they have written about. In the younger year levels for drama, I sometimes say, look, it's a good place to start, but you've got to go further than that, ladies and gentlemen. You're year 12s. Okay, so you need to think like a year 12. Now, what's really interesting is hint 4 to actually look at the type of websites that the address is. And I've kind of looked at them sometimes. I understand that org sites have an opinion. I knew that. But yeah, there's some really interesting ones. So edu, you'd recognise that from your email. So educational.com, it's a sites that sell. The org have an opinion. I think orgs also use for organisation, like particularly charities. AU, obviously in Australia, and .co are from the United Kingdom. So in your analysis of websites, you may look at the actual address and see what it says. Check when the information was last updated. Just because you can find information on the internet, that doesn't mean it's recent. Maybe you don't want recent information, that's fine. Maybe it doesn't matter because it's just plain fact, but that's up to you. Be selective, be brutal, be wise. If it seems to be too good to be true, it probably is. You can waste hours looking for information and finding nothing. You're losing time. Walk away, check your textbook or another source, and then start again. We're not going to bother with those activities. What I want to take you to is cars. Now, if you look at this one, these two just provide some different language and some different points for you to consider. Now, the cars, it used to be crap. They used to teach crap, so it was credibility, reasonableness, accuracy. I can't remember what the P was, but now we can sort of talk about crappy cars. At the end of the day, these two are giving you points to talk about. Now this relates to the evaluation. So you put your key findings and you adjust the size of this, however big you need it. This is what I'm talking about now, and you need to evaluate every single source. And that's what the A+ example was doing. They were just doing it over 2 sections. Okay, so they talked mostly about validity and reliability. We're providing some other things for you as well, depending on your research. Because at the end of the day, I've stepped you through very explicitly up until this point. You know, I've said do this task, do that task, and so on. This is the handball now. And it doesn't mean that you're completely on your own, of course not. But this is where you now take charge. And this is where research project is so totally different to any other subject. All right? So we provide the resources for you, but you make the decisions. All right? So when you go to analyze something, you might skim through these questions or the CARS questions, and you might go, this one's not appropriate for this source, but this one is, you know, and so on. Okay? So if I was to look at the CARS, credibility, the goal is you want a source that is created by a person or organisation who knows the subject and who cares about its quality. Now, credibility. Yes, people who are experts are most credible, of course. You know, if you've done the study and so on. But what if there's, and we talk about sort of professional students. I know a lot of people who, and even a bit higher up in the education department, who have done all the study, but have barely spent a day in a classroom or haven't been in a classroom for 10 years. how credible are they? Well, it depends on what you're talking about, okay? So you really need to move beyond, oh yep, they've got a bachelor in blah, 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 or they have studied blah, 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 so they must be credible. What else have they done? Have they got life experience? You know, I was saying to the last class that even if someone hasn't done lots of study, I've done no study in, say, sports psychology. Well, actually, I've done sports psychology. I've done no study into the physiology of exercise, like nothing. But I have done a bit of research, not officially, but you know, I've done a little bit of research and I've applied it and I've seen what works for me and blah, 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 blah. So I could still be credible when talking about running long distances. I don't know everything, but I know some things. Does that make sense? So you need to think about credibility way beyond just what are their credentials. Yeah? So some prompting questions there. Is there a publishing or sponsoring organisation? Is it sponsored by the government? And even if it is that still credible? Who knows? Do they have, you know, because when we get down to where it talks about bias, you know, maybe they have an agenda they're trying to push. Is the organisation an authority on the subject? Is the author listed? Is the author an authority on the subject? How do you know? Are there spelling errors, grammatical errors, dead links and other problems that indicate a lack of quality control? Over here, credibility. Is there information about the author? Is that easy to find? You know, if that's not easy to find, don't know. What do others say about the author or organisation? Maybe you need to do some research into the research. Are there contact details for the author or organisation? Is there a header or logo that indicates the document was produced by an organisation? Does it inform, give facts or data, explain, persuade, sell or entertain? So, you know, what's their purpose? Now, do you have to answer every one of those questions every single time? No. But, you know, if you find yourself that you're repeating yourself all the time, you might look for some different ways to explain what you're trying to say. Accuracy. Your goal is a source with information that is current, complete and correct. So some questions to help you there. Does the information in the website agree with other sources? This is where we make those connections. Does the site contradict itself? What was the date of the publication or copyright? And so on. How recently was it updated? That probably goes into the current. Is there a date on the article? When was the page last updated? So similar questions. Reasonableness. You want something that is truthful and unbiased. Now sometimes though, having said that, you can take bias, but talk about that bias. You know, for example, if you're trying to look into why people should join a religion, and you go and interview people from that religion, of course they're going to have bias. Like, that's just obvious. But you need to look past it and still make connections, still take out what they're saying, the good things they're saying, and then connect it to other things they're saying, but keep an open mind. Do you see what I'm saying? Saying a lot. Support. Source. Your goal is to have a source with a verifiable sources of information. Are there other sources listed? So sometimes you go to a website and it can give you an opportunity to follow other links. Is there a way to contact the author or organisation? This one here has bias. Does the author use stereotypes, generalisations and exaggerations? Doesn't mean you can't use it. You just have to talk about that and discuss that. Is it a commercial site? Is it trying to sell you something? What is its message? Does the author blah, 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 blah. In your key findings, for this part, for the reddish part, what are the most important points? That is not just a big page of dot points. That's really being very, very selective on your new information. Remember, new information. How has the article developed your knowledge for your community activity? I don't know why that. I have learnt about and so on. I have connected that. I now have the idea of. Or this has made me think about. Or I've got another question now. It's opened up a whole new can of worms. Don't use the word can of worms, but it's opened a whole new subtopic for me. Or I didn't think about this aspect, I'm now going to look into it. That's what you put in that section. Okay? So, starting Monday, now, like I said, these ones, the other ones, you can, in the past, I've said you have to do all of them for every source analysis. I've realised that's a big fat waste of time. You might do that every couple of them. But we will also be providing you and expecting you to complete some critical analysis. So take, you'll do one sheet of writing. The last 2 weeks I have. Does that make sense? And that might be where you touch on those. But having said that, like I said, there might be a source that has other sources listed, or it's made you realise of this whole other subject. You might keep that challenge or opportunity, talk about the opportunity. This source has made me realise that. Does that make sense? So this is the base template, but seeing as it's your research project, your focus area, your topic, you pick and choose what you need. There's one about the capability, I think it's a bit lower. If you're doing a source analysis on how to write a survey, and your capability is literacy, well, of course, you'd leave that in. And you say, I'm understanding the text type of surveys, and blah, 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 blah. So you use this basis, and it's in the Folio resources section. I can't remember what number it is, 4, I think. And you pick and choose what you want and what you need. All right? Sorry about so much talking, but hopefully it means that on Monday you can walk in and you have a fair idea of what you're doing. And hopefully when you do get stuck, other than coming to me, that I've provided a couple of places for you to find that information out.